Hello. Sorry about that, guys. How many people are watching me? One? Oh man. Okay. Three. Okay, that's good. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter because fuck it, you know. So as I was saying, Niall Ferguson goes on to this thing about how it's all, oh, what's the collateral damage? Yeah, sorry about that. Let me just, refocus because the thing just winked out on its own. I don't have any control over it. I mean, if I did, I wouldn't let it happen now, would I? But it happens, regularly. So just, I don't know what the hell is going on, but, that's life. Okay, so to keep on going what I was talking about. Yeah, what is the collateral damage? And I'll just repeat a little bit what I said before and then move on to finish off this thing because I'm almost done. What is the collateral damage? Well, the world has he answers, Niall Ferguson answers, the world has a serious and worsening inflation problem. With central banks seriously behind the curve, the longer this war continues, the more serious the threat of outright stagflation. Okay? That is, as far as he's concerned, the only collateral damage. Okay? And then he answers, so what's next? Is the question I get asked repeatedly. And he says, to get to the bottom line, let's turn back to political science, beginning with the case for optimism. Most wars are short. According to a 1996 article by Bennett and Stam, the average war between 1816 and 1985 lasted just 15 months. Statistics to discuss a war. It's just stupid. Because every war and every leader is different. Okay, and every war, some wars last very long, some wars last very short. Some wars are thought they're going to be very short, like the Spring War or the Summer War of 1914, which lasted kind of long, didn't it? Huh? Yeah, I mean, all wars last different, and even the participants, they think it's going to last X amount of time. It becomes much longer, but that's not the point. The point is, see, the collateral damage is not how long this war is going to last. The collateral damage is not stagflation, okay? The collateral damage is that the West has committed suicide. That's the collateral damage. Niall Ferguson, in this article, which I've been discussing, for those of you coming in late or just seeing this video without the previous part, Niall Ferguson does not understand that the West is over. The West committed suicide because the West is over indebted and it needs commodities. But it cut off its supply of commodities. And it was commodities, and soon enough with the sanctions that it's going to impose on India and China, the finished goods that the West needed. And since it's so over-indebted and needs those commodities to just continue to pay for its debt, let alone acquire more debt so as to survive, right? The fact that it cut itself off from those commodities means that the West committed economic suicide. That's what it did. They killed themselves. The sanctions are going to be seen retrospectively as the most catastrophic decision in, the sanctions are going to be seen as the decision to commit suicide. They did not understand what they were doing. They didn't understand how necessary Russia is. And because these people who are in leadership positions, and listen to imbeciles like Niall Ferguson, people who are either stupid or evil propagandists who show up a false reality that makes people make horrible decisions, well, because of this, the Western leaders are going to continue doubling down on sanctions. They're going to impose more sanctions on India and China, which the West needs. And ultimately, what's going to happen is that the West is going to collapse into a debt spiral. Your money is not going to be worth shit by the end of 2023. Okay? And you're already seeing the inflation that's going on now. It is going to go parabolic with remarkable speed. Don't pretend otherwise. And Niall Ferguson is not talking about that collateral damage. Not at all. He's talking about stagflation, like, oh, it's going to be like the doldrums of the 70s kind of thing. That's the vibe that they're trying to spread, by the way, propagandists, because I think that Niall Ferguson is a very clever man. He's smart enough to know the truth. And so the lies he spouts are deliberate, not out of ignorance. Well, the military part, it's just ignorance. He's stupid. He just doesn't know what he's talking about. But insofar as the political and economic consequences, I think that he's deliberately trying to paint a false picture, because it's not going to be like the doldrums of the 70s kind of stagflation. This is going to be Weimar Germany. It is. And just, yeah, Weimar Germany. That's the best example. What happens after that? Who knows? Will a Hitler figure rise up? Who knows? I mean, you can't predict this kind of stuff. But I will tell you right now that this guy, Niall Ferguson, who has a prominent place in our cultural environment, he's an incompetent in certain areas, as I hope I've shown, especially in the military and the political. He doesn't understand politics at all. I mean, he doesn't understand the internal politicking in Russia. He's premised on the notion that if Putin is removed, then the war will be over, that everything will be hunky-dory and we'll go to status quo ante. No, this is stupid. Because see, let's imagine, a timeline that diverges, and there are two timelines, okay? In one timeline, Putin continues, and the other timeline, Putin is struck by lightning, and he's replaced by somebody else, painlessly. No chaos in Russia, right? Let's just assume that. And let's add a third one. Let's assume the third one is, violent overthrow of Russia, a palace coup. Okay, let's go through three possibilities. If Putin remains, what happens? Well, the war continues, and the way things are going, and because of the atrocities that Niall Ferguson doesn't even mention, the atrocities committed against Russian POWs, which has hardened the resolve of the Russian military, and hardened, most important of all, the people's resolve, because those images, those videos were shown in Russia, and they caused outrage, as anybody would realize. And the fact that Niall Ferguson doesn't even mention them, and doesn't even mention how that has totally turned the political tide in Russia, and why Putin is so popular. He doesn't mention that at all. That's basically being a liar, because he knows. Don't give me this bullshit that he doesn't know. No, he knows. So anyway, the Russians, with Putin, they're going to continue. And they're going to win this war. And they're going to conquer the whole of Ukraine, all of it. And later, they'll get around to Kiev, and they will retake it. I mean, they never tried to take it, okay? But the next time, they will. They'll take the whole thing. They're going to take over the whole goddamn country. And they're going to break it up. They are going to partition it, unquestionably. I mean, they are already putting money, rubles, in Kherson. They are asking people to use, or obliging them actually, to use rubles, and they're very polite about changing people's money into rubles at a favorable exchange rate. They're not screwing over the people. There's no intention of robbing the people by forcing them to turn Ukrainian hryvnias into rubles. They're not giving them a crappy exchange rate. In some cases, they're actually, it seems to be kind of generous, because they want to make sure that everybody in Kherson is using rubles. Why? Why is everything in Kherson, why is every government building waving the Russian flag? Because they're going to take it over. That's why. They're conquering that territory. See? He doesn't talk about this. So anyway, Putin lives, continues, captures the whole country, breaks it up, and Russia absorbs the ethnic Russian part of Ukraine. Track 2. Putin is struck by lightning. No damage to Russia at all, just struck by lightning, and she's replaced. What happens in this second timeline? Russia continues with the war and takes over the whole of Ukraine, period. Just takes it over. No difference whatsoever. How do I know this? Because everybody in the Kremlin right now has been in their position for a long time. They're all loyal to Putin. And it's not so much that they're loyal to Putin. They agree with his aims. So if Putin were struck by lightning or something like that, and just removed from the scene, the people in the Kremlin would find a replacement. I bet it would be Sergei Lavrov, right? But Sergei Lavrov, who's the current foreign minister, and he's a man of gravitas, he's a man with balls, he's a guy to respect, he's a man in full. He's going to carry on this war exactly as Putin would have, because they worked it out. I mean, come on. All of these guys must have spent, God alone knows how many nights, figuring out this whole thing and game playing every possibility. So if Putin is removed by, an act of God struck by lightning, it's just going to continue exactly the same. Okay. Third possibility, there's a palace coup. I mean, that is just ludicrous because of Putin's high ratings. Nobody in his right mind would seriously think of, of carrying out a palace coup against Putin? No one. But let's just assume. And let's assume that whoever is this coup plotter was able to gather enough people around him and was successful, of course. I mean, it's premised on that. Let's assume that this palace coup was successful. And let's assume, for the sake of argument, that they actually killed Putin, to eliminate him as a variable within this timeline. And this is hypothetical, okay? What would happen? Well, this new regime would have zero credibility with the people, and there would be revolts, widespread revolts. And the people would insist that they want Putin back. And the new regime, what would it be forced to do? It would be forced to lie, to come up with some excuse and say, oh no, we didn't do anything to Putin. He fell off a truck or something. He bashed his head and he's dead. But we're going to continue, and we're going to do exactly what Putin was doing because you, the people, want it, so we're going to do it. You see? In any timeline, with Putin painlessly removed, Putin removed in a bloody coup, the result is going to be the same. Because in a bloody coup, you'd have to have a substantial portion of people within the Kremlin who vigorously disagree with Putin to enough of an extent that they would want to challenge his leadership. Because it's not enough to be ambitious. You have to have a good reason. Even if the reason is, it's a skin suit that you're just wearing in order to get your ambitions fulfilled, you still need a good reason. And within the Kremlin, no one has that good reason because everybody's on board, because they've been around long enough and they've been talking about this and figuring it out from every possible angle long enough that they have no intention of backing off. See? None whatsoever. And so this notion of regime change is going to change anything. First of all, it's laughable. Okay, it's just stupid. And second, it's not going to change a goddamn thing. So Niall Ferguson's analysis, even if we could excuse away his purported ignorance, it's laughable. It's just stupid. It's just completely wrong. But I insist, see, there's nothing wrong with being wrong. I mean, I'm wrong lots of times. One could argue that I'm wrong about most things. But there's a big difference between being wrong in your analysis and being just completely ignorant about very crucial subject matters like military tactics and strategy that Niall Ferguson clearly does not handle. He doesn't understand them at all. He does not understand maneuver warfare. He believes that all warfare is about conquering. He doesn't understand, and obviously he does not read Clausewitz, he does not understand the notion that war is just merely a continuation of politics by other means. He doesn't understand that at all. He has no conception of it. He probably is deeply confused as to why the Russians are negotiating at all with the Ukrainians. He doesn't understand that at all, which is pretty funny. So he's an incompetent historian in that regard. Insofar as everything military, he's an idiot. He's incompetent. I mean, it's not that he's a fool, because he's obviously not. He's got high IQ points. He read Sartre when he was a teenager. Liar. What a fucking liar. I mean, like I said at the beginning of this, we all read Sartre when we were teenagers, right? But the book that he said, The Age of Reason, come on, man. Come on, man. I mean, a teenage boy, when he's 15, and he's all deep and into his dark zone with his big brains and no girls, right? He's reading Being and Nothingness, Nausea. What else, He's reading up on how Sartre got Simone de Beauvoir to procure him, cute little French girls, which is true, by the way. She was such a low woman that she would convince some of the girls who orbited her to sleep with Sartre, because Sartre was just such a froggy little man. He was really disgusting looking. Then he couldn't get girls on his own. So Simone de Beauvoir was his pimp. I'm telling you the truth, man. It's pretty fucking funny. But anyway, teenage boy is going to be thinking about that. He's not going to be reading The Age of Reason, because that's not a book that a teenager reads. It's something that a grad student reads. And so he's lying, Like I said at the beginning, it's only when the tide pulls out that you see who's swimming naked. Niall Ferguson is swimming naked. He is completely naked. He doesn't know anything about military tactics, or more importantly, military strategy, global overall military strategy. And he is lying his ass off in order to please his audience insofar as a whole host of issues of economics and politics and geopolitics. He's deliberately lying because nobody can be that ignorant and stupid. Well, it's just not possible to be that ignorant and that stupid. You have to be doing it to lie. And so what's clear is that he's an incompetent historian who has parlayed his reputation in order to lie to his audience so as to give them the justification for their heinous acts. The Western regimes plan on doing some sort of horrible, false flag operation. They've done it before. The Iraqi weapons of mass destructions, the chemical attacks in Syria, all false flags, all bullshit. Niall Ferguson is a part of this, and he knows it. He's sophisticated enough to know it. Yeah. So he is a warmongering liar and an incompetent historian. You should know that about Niall Ferguson. It's important to know that. And that's all I have to say about him. And if he's got a problem with it, I'm happy to debate him, but I don't think he's going to want to because I'll blow him the fuck out. Oh, yeah. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this. Sorry for the tech snafu that made this be divvied up into 2 parts, and I'll catch you next time. Take it easy.